July 6, 1998. 41,412 fans packed the Georgia Dome to watch Goldberg defeat Hollywood Hogan on Monday Nitro. It was the single biggest crowd ever for a weekly wrestling show. The place was absolutely electric. You could feel it through your television screen. 26 years later, that building is gone. Demolished, turned into a parking lot. What happened? And what happened to all the other temples where wrestling history was made? Welcome back to the Wrestleverse. Today we're talking about something different, something that, honestly, doesn't get nearly enough attention. We're talking about the buildings, the actual physical spaces where all that magic happened. And here's the thing, most of them are gone now. Just gone. Think about it for a second. That arena where you saw your first live wrestling match, the one where you screamed so loud your throat hurt the next day, the place where you watched Bruno defend the title, or where you witnessed the Von Erichs in their prime, or where you felt the electricity of Ric Flair working a Texas crowd into a frenzy. There's a pretty good chance that building doesn't exist anymore. So today, we're doing something important. We're preserving the memory of these vanished cathedrals. We're counting down the 12 most significant defunct wrestling venues in North American history. Number 12. American Legend, Post number 308. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. We're starting with a building from the 2000s. This is supposed to be about the Golden Age. Stick with me here, because this one's important, and it connects directly to the lineage of what came before. Built way back in 1928, this modest little structure became something completely unexpected in the modern era. A global icon for independent wrestling. From 2006 to 2018, this was the home of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG. And if you've been paying attention to wrestling over the last decade, you know that PWG became the place where the future of wrestling was being born. In the territorial era, you had these small-scale venues that served as laboratories, places where young talent could experiment, could try things, could fail in front of 300 people instead of 15,000. The American Legion Post gave the current generation of wrestlers that exact same thing, a laboratory away from the corporate sanitization of televised wrestling. And let me tell you who came through those sweat-soaked walls. Kevin Steen, who you know now as Kevin Owens in WWE. El Generico, Sami Zayn. The Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. These guys, along with dozens of others, redefined what independent wrestling could be. You weren't watching wrestling at the American Legion Post. You were inside it. The performers could hear every word you said. You could feel the impact of every bump. There was no distance between you and the action. In 2018, the building was sold. Just like that, this chapter of West Coast wrestling history ended. PWG had to move on, find new homes, and the scene scattered. Number 11. Boston Garden. Originally called the Boston Madison Square Garden, for 70 years, 1928 to 1998, this was the fortress of the Northeast wrestling market. And when I say fortress, I mean it literally. This was where promoters came to test their champions. If you could draw in Boston, if you could survive a Boston crowd, you could work anywhere. Now, some of you watching this, you went to the Boston Garden. You sat in those seats. So let me ask you something. How would you describe that crowd? If you said rowdy, you're being polite. If you said hostile, you're getting warmer. The Boston Garden had a reputation, and every wrestler from the territorial era will tell you the same thing. Boston crowds were brutal. They didn't just watch wrestling in Boston. They participated. They let you know, loudly, if you weren't delivering. And if you were delivering, they'd shake the rafters. The Garden hosted monthly house shows throughout the territorial era. Every major champion who held a belt between the 50s and the 90s defended it there. Now, the Garden did host a major pay-per-view, Survivor Series 1993. But honestly, that's not what made the Boston Garden legendary. What made it legendary was those monthly shows, the ones that didn't make pay-per-view, the ones where you drive in from the suburbs on a Tuesday night to watch Bruno or Pedro Morales or whoever was carrying the strap at the time. Those nights where the building was so packed you could barely breathe, where cigarette smoke hung in the air like fog, where you'd scream yourself hoarse and drive home happy, even if it was a school night. In 1998, they tore it down, replaced it with the TD Garden. Cleaner, more modern, climate-controlled, with luxury suites and all the corporate amenities. Number 10. Philadelphia Civic Center, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And in the world of professional wrestling, it was also a battleground. See, WWE had a strong presence in Philadelphia. They ran multiple venues in the city, but there was one building they didn't control. And that building, that became World Championship Wrestling's fortress in enemy territory. Think about how strategic that is. WCW, trying to compete nationally with the WWE juggernaut, needed to establish legitimate footholds in WWE's stronghold cities. They couldn't just concede the entire Northeast to their competition. Halloween Havoc, 1989, inaugural edition of what would become WCW's signature October tradition, right there in Philadelphia. Now, if you were a WCW fan in the Philadelphia area during the 90s, you knew where your home was. You didn't have to go to a WWE building. You had your place. The Civic Center was where you went to see Sting, Flair, the Steiners, Vader, all the guys who were carrying WCW's banner. The building itself had that classic Civic Center feel. Big, functional, not particularly fancy, but with good sight lines and solid acoustics. It could pack in thousands of passionate wrestling fans, and Philadelphia crowds were known for their intensity. The Civic Center stood as a WCW fortress through some of the most competitive years in wrestling history. The late 80s, the early to mid-90s. This was when the battle lines were being drawn for what would eventually become the Monday Night Wars. In 2005, they demolished it. Today, if you go to that address in Philadelphia, you'll find modern developments. The building is completely gone. And with it went WCW's last physical connection to the Philadelphia market. Number 9. Orlando Arena, Amway Arena. The late 1980s. Orlando, Florida is becoming a destination city. Disney World is booming, Universal Studios is coming, and professional wrestling. Wrestling sees an opportunity. The Orlando Arena, later renamed the Amway Arena, became the crown jewel of Florida's wrestling scene, and it had something that a lot of other venues didn't have. Sunshine, palm trees, that Florida energy. The Orlando Arena hosted 3 major pay-per-views: Royal Rumble, 1990, Bash at the Beach, 1994, Armageddon, 2003. But it's really one of those events that puts this building on our list. Royal Rumble, 1990. The Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. Champion versus champion. The 2 biggest stars in the company on a collision course. You remember that moment when they came face to face in the Rumble match? The place exploded. 2 unstoppable forces meeting in the middle of the ring, and you could feel the electricity through your television screen. But here's the moment that really matters for wrestling history. July 17th, 1994. Bash at the Beach. Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Hogan defeats Flair and wins the WCW World title right there in Orlando. This was WCW saying, we can compete at the highest commercial level. We have the stars, we have the venues, we have the production values. The Orlando Arena represented that transition point, from regional territory wrestling to the national televised corporate era. It had that modern feel, clean, professional, camera-friendly. A decade ago, they tore it down. If you drive by that location today, you'll find vacant land waiting for redevelopment. The building that hosted Hogan versus Warrior, that witnessed Hulkamania's rebirth in WCW, that captured so many Florida wrestling memories. It's just gone. Number 8. Richfield Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio, a suburb between Cleveland and Akron. Not exactly the first place you'd think of as a wrestling hotspot, right? But the Richfield Coliseum became something unexpected. A laboratory for one of WWE's most important business experiments. Here's the thing about the Richfield Coliseum. It didn't last long. It closed in the mid-90s, and by the year 2000, it was demolished. Gone. But in its short lifespan, it gave birth to a franchise that WWE still runs to this day, nearly 40 years later. November 26, 1987, Thanksgiving night, the very first Survivor Series. Think about what WWE was doing here. They were creating a holiday tradition, Thanksgiving wrestling, and they were testing it in a suburban Ohio arena to see if the concept would work. And here's the brilliant part, it worked. So WWE came back to Richfield the very next year, Survivor Series 1988. Then they brought it back again in 1992. By 2000, the building was imploded. Just boom, gone in seconds. And here's something kind of poetic. If you go to that location today, it's part of the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. The land has literally reverted to nature. Number 7. Georgia Dome. The late 1990s. The Monday Night Wars are in full swing. WWE versus WCW. Every week, both companies are trying to outdo each other. Better matches, bigger stars, crazier storylines. But in the summer of 1998, WCW did something the WWE couldn't match. They filled a football stadium for a weekly television show, not a pay-per-view, not WrestleMania. A weekly show, July 6, 1998. Monday Nitro, the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. And the announced attendance, 41,112 fans. And they all came to see one thing, Goldberg versus Hollywood Hogan for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Goldberg was unstoppable at this point. The streak, the intensity, the spear, the jackhammer. Every week he was mowing through the competition, and the fans couldn't get enough of him. And when Goldberg defeated Hogan and won that title, when the confetti started falling and that building erupted, that was the absolute peak, the zenith, the highest point of the Monday Night Wars. Now here's the thing, that moment, that peak, it didn't last. Within a few years, WCW would be hemorrhaging money. By 2001, they'd be bought out by WWE. The company would cease to exist. But on that July night in 1998, none of that mattered. On that night, WCW was on top of the world. The Georgia Dome went on to host other major wrestling events. WrestleMania 27 in 2011 was held there, proving the venue's versatility as a space for both regional triumphs and global spectacles. But it's that Monday Nitro in '98 that defines the building's legacy in wrestling history. That's the moment that showed wrestling could compete with any entertainment form on the planet. The Georgia Dome was demolished in 2017. Today, if you go to that location in Atlanta, you'll find parking areas and green space for the newer Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the building that housed the biggest crowd in weekly wrestling history. It's a parking lot now. Number 6. The Grand Olympic Auditorium. 1924. Los Angeles is preparing to host the 1932 Olympic Games. They need venues, and they build the Grand Olympic Auditorium, a monument to athletic competition that would serve an entirely different purpose for the next 80 years. This building stands apart from almost everything else on our list because of one word: longevity. Classy. Freddie Blassie became a legend here. Lucha Libre stars from Mexico found a home here. Japanese strong-style wrestlers competed here. This was a melting pot, a place where different wrestling traditions could blend and evolve. For decades, from the 30s through the 70s, this was the primary center for West Coast combat sports. If you were a wrestling fan in Southern California, this was your temple. This was where you went to see the best. But by the 1980s, the regional scene started to atrophy. The territory system was collapsing. The Grand Olympic, like so many other regional strongholds, started to lose its prominence. The building kept hosting events, including ECW's Heatwave 2000, which brought extreme wrestling to a venue that had seen it all, but the golden age was over. By 2005, the Grand Olympic closed its doors as a combat sports venue. But here's where the story gets interesting. The building still stands. It's now the Glory Church of Jesus Christ, a Korean Christian megachurch. Hey, listen, I want to take just a quick moment here before we continue counting down these incredible venues. If you're enjoying this journey through wrestling's lost architectural history, if these stories are bringing back memories or teaching you something new about the business we all love, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the Wrestleverse. We do deep dives like this all the time, exploring the golden age of wrestling, preserving these stories, making sure the history doesn't get forgotten just because the buildings did. All right, let's get back to it. Number 5. Sam Houston Coliseum, 1937. America is still struggling economically, but Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal is putting people back to work, building infrastructure across the country. But in the world of wrestling, this building had one name attached to it more than any other: Paul Boesch. Paul Boesch made the Sam Houston Coliseum his operational base, his theater. This was the heart of Houston's downtown wrestling culture, and Boesch was the maestro. July 20th, 1973, Jack Briscoe defeats Harley Race for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, the NWA World title, the most prestigious championship in professional wrestling at that time, and it changed hands in Houston, Texas at the Sam Houston Coliseum. In 1971, the NBA's Houston Rockets arrived in the city. They needed a venue, and they took one look at the Sam Houston Coliseum and said, "No thanks, we're playing at Hoff-Heinz Pavilion instead." And without that premier sports tenant, without that steady revenue stream, the building started its slow decline. For the next 27 years, the Sam Houston Coliseum hosted events, but it was fighting a losing battle against time and economics. The city wasn't investing in upgrades. The building was decaying. By 1998, they tore it down. Today, if you go to that location in downtown Houston, you'll find the Hobby Center for the Performing Arts, Broadway shows, symphony performances, high culture. Number 4. Philadelphia Spectrum. 1967, Philadelphia opens a brand new arena with a bold claim: America's showplace. And for the next 42 years, it lived up to that name. Now, we already talked about the Philadelphia Civic Center, WCW's fortress in the city. But the Spectrum, this was WWE's house. This was their urban fortress in the Northeast, and it was essential to their success. And if you were a wrestling fan in the Philadelphia area, the Spectrum was where you went. Not once a year, not for special occasions, monthly. But the Spectrum had something that gave it a strategic advantage over almost every other venue in the country: the Prism Network. Prism was a regional cable network in the Philadelphia area, and they had a broadcast partnership with the Spectrum. What that meant was this: WWE events at the Spectrum got a high-production television look that elevated the promotion's regional profile to a national standard. In 1990, the Spectrum hosted SummerSlam, one of WWE's Big Four pay-per-views. Ultimate Warrior defending the WWE Championship against Rick Rude in a steel cage. That was a huge show. But you know what? The match that defines the Spectrum's legacy isn't a pay-per-view main event. It's the 1981 Texas Death Match between Bruno Sammartino and Larry Zbyszko. This was personal. This was real emotion. Bruno, the living legend of the Northeast, against his former protege who turned on him, a steel cage. The Spectrum crowd was rabid. If you were there that night, you witnessed one of the most emotionally charged matches in wrestling history. That wasn't sports entertainment. That wasn't a work that felt like a shoot. That was the business at its most raw and visceral. The Spectrum operated for 42 years. Through the territorial era, through the national expansion, through the Monday Night Wars, into the modern era. In 2009, they tore it down. Today, that location is a parking lot. The Xfinity Live Entertainment Complex sits nearby, and where the Spectrum once stood, people parked their cars before going to watch the Flyers or the 76ers at the new arena. Number 3. Texas Stadium. Home of the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, a football cathedral. But for one night, one absolutely magical night, this building belonged to professional wrestling, and not just any wrestling. Texas wrestling, world-class championship wrestling. The Von Erichs, May 6, 1984, the Parade of Champions, world-class championship wrestling's biggest event ever. And the main event, Kerry Von Erich versus Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in front of nearly 50,000 fans. See, the Von Erichs weren't just wrestlers in Texas. They were icons. And Kerry, the modern-day warrior, he was the golden boy. But he'd never won the big one, the NWA World title. And Ric Flair, Flair was the measuring stick, the greatest champion in the business. So when World Class announced this match, when they booked Texas Stadium, when they positioned Kerry to finally achieve his destiny, Texas responded. And when Kerry hit that discus punch, when he covered Flair, when the referee counted 3, Texas Stadium erupted. 50,000 people losing their minds, grown men crying, kids on their fathers' shoulders screaming, confetti falling, fireworks going off. This was the absolute zenith of the Von Erich legacy, the highest point. In 2010, they imploded it, brought it down in a controlled demolition. The site still sits there in Irving, Texas. Plans for redevelopment come and go, but the land remains, waiting for its next purpose. Number 2. Mid-South Coliseum, Memphis, Tennessee, 1964. The Civil Rights Act has just been signed into law. America is changing, and Memphis opens a building that represents that change. And here's what made it groundbreaking. It was Memphis's first racially integrated facility. In 1964, in the American South, that meant something. That was a statement. This building was saying, everyone is welcome here. Black, white, doesn't matter. If you've got a ticket, you've got a seat. But in the world of professional wrestling, this building had one name attached to it more than any other: Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry Lawler was Memphis wrestling. He was the face of the territory, the king of the city. And every Monday night, he'd defend his kingdom at the Mid-South Coliseum. Bill Dundee, Dutch Mantell, Austin Idol, Tommy Rich. The list goes on and on. Lawler had legendary feuds with everyone, and the Mid-South Coliseum was where those stories played out. But there's one feud that defines this building's place in wrestling history. One angle that changed the entire industry. Andy Kaufman, the comedian from Taxi. In 1982, Kaufman started wrestling women as part of his comedy act. He'd challenge women to matches, beat them, then mock them. It was performance art. It was satire. And Jerry Lawler, he'd had enough. He decided to teach this Hollywood outsider a lesson about Memphis wrestling. April 5th, 1982, Jerry Lawler versus Andy Kaufman. Mid-South Coliseum, and Lawler destroyed him. Pile drivers, over and over. Kaufman had to be carried out on a stretcher. A few months later, Lawler and Kaufman appeared on Late Night with David Letterman. They're sitting there, being interviewed, and Kaufman starts mocking Memphis, starts calling it a hick town. And Lawler slapped him right there on national television. The Jerry Lawler versus Andy Kaufman feud is credited with the birth of modern sports entertainment. It bridged the gap between pro wrestling and the wider entertainment world. And it all started at the Mid-South Coliseum. Today, the building stands empty, mothballed due to ADA compliance issues. Americans with Disabilities Act. It doesn't meet modern accessibility standards. Number 1. The Dallas Sportatorium. If there's one building that defines the territorial era of professional wrestling, this is it. Not the biggest, not the fanciest, not the most comfortable, but the most iconic. From the outside, it looked like a barn. Just this rectangular structure sitting in Dallas. Nothing special. Nothing that would make you think, oh, that's where history happens. But when you walked through those doors, when you stepped inside, you entered a different world. The building had this unique octagonal interior seating arrangement. The ring was in the center, and the fans were packed around it in this tight, claustrophobic configuration. And that geometry, that design, it created something that no modern arena can replicate. An atmosphere that was absolutely electric, intense, uncomfortable, perfect. You weren't watching wrestling at the Dallas Sportatorium. You were inside it. The wrestlers could hear every word you said. You could see the sweat, smell the blood, feel every impact. Now let me be honest with you about this building. It was a dump. It was famously uncomfortable and unsanitary. Rodent infestations, a literal pit in the foundation. No air conditioning in Texas in the summer. In 1953, there was an arson. The building burned, but they rebuilt it because Dallas needed it. And then, in the late 70s and early 80s, something magical happened. The Von Erichs arrived. Fritz von Erich and his sons turned the Dallas Sportatorium into the heart of world-class championship wrestling. This became their house, their kingdom. World Class started taping television shows at the Sportatorium. They called it the Global Dome. And those tapings? They were syndicated around the world. Japan, Israel, markets all over the globe were watching wrestling from this barn in Dallas, Texas. The Dallas Sportatorium became the most recognized wrestling building on Earth. In 2001, the Dallas Sportatorium caught fire, terminal damage. The building that had survived an arson in 1953, that had hosted decades of wrestling and music, that had broadcast Texas culture around the world, it couldn't survive this one. In 2003, they demolished what was left. Today, if you go to that location in Dallas, you'll find vacant land. It's part of the Trinity River Project, plans for parks and development along the river. So there you have it, 12 vanished cathedrals. 12 buildings that defined professional wrestling in its territorial era. And most of them, they're just gone. From the American Legion Post in Reseda to the Dallas Sportatorium, from the Boston Garden to the Georgia Dome. Each one played a crucial role in the story of this business we love. But there's a bigger story here, isn't there? It's not just about these buildings. It's about what happened to the entire industry. Professional wrestling underwent a profound architectural transition. We moved from idiosyncratic utilitarian buildings, places that were designed for intimacy, for intensity, for that raw connection between performer and audience, to multi-sensory experiences in modern multi-purpose stadiums, corporate hospitality suites, high-tech amenities, climate control, luxury seating. And look, I'm not saying modern venues are bad. They're comfortable, they're accessible. They provide a great viewing experience for tens of thousands of fans. But something was lost in that transition. If this video brought back memories, if it taught you something new about wrestling's architectural history, if it made you feel something, please hit that like button. Leave a comment telling me which of these venues you attended or which one you wish you could have experienced. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Wrestleverse. We're dedicated to preserving the history of the golden age of wrestling. Because the buildings might be gone, but as long as we keep talking about them, they never really die. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.